I'm Matt Stallard.
And I'm Grant Stallard.
This fiddle tune is Jimmy Johnson, which originated in Kentucky, but was made popular by a couple of West Virginia fiddlers, Melvin Wine and Ernie Carpenter. But it's a square dancing standard in West Virginia. So my grandfather, Hobe Stallard, he was born 1895 and lived to be 101 years old, died in 1996. He was a banjo player and a folk singer. He was born in Wise County, Virginia. Moved to Waterloo, Ohio in the 1950s, just between Ironton here and Gallipolis, and lived about 20 years there until he was up in his 80s, and then he decided he wanted to move back to Virginia again, so he moved back. But I got to spend many, many hours with him on his front porch. The style of banjo that he played was a pre-Civil War form of banjo playing. It's not the same as modern clawhammer, which is played in old-time music now, or certainly not anything like bluegrass music. When he was 3 years old, his father died. He was kicked in the head by a horse that he was shoeing. So his uncle, Richard Baker, took an interest in him, and it was a profound influence on his entire life moving forward. But he had been a CSA veteran, and he had learned to play the banjo and played the banjo during the Civil War, and also was a fife player. And my grandfather absorbed that from him. So I used to love hearing those kinds of old stories. My grandfather was an encyclopedia of Appalachian ballads. He could recite hundreds from memory. So he was my banjo influence. My father was a barber in Ashland, Kentucky for 50 years. And so I had an opportunity to spend many hours there with other traditional musicians. J.P. Fraley was one of our customers, and J.P. is an Eastern Kentucky fiddle legend. And so he took an interest in me and mentored me on the fiddle during my teenage years, and I was able to play with him pretty regularly up until the time I moved away and went to college at Ohio University. Play a little bit of Whoa Mule. Whoa mule, whoa mule, I say, well, I ain't got time to kiss you now, my mule's run away. Well, a head looks like a coffee pot, a nose looks like a spout, a mouth looks like But I've tried to stay true to the old-time music tradition. And by old-time, what we mean by that is essentially music that's pre-bluegrass. So before 1947 and the Monroe Brothers did their work, there was a lot of old-time music that was recorded, started to be recorded in about 1921 by New York recording companies. So they came in with portable recorders into Appalachia and recorded that music. That music had an influence on my grandfather. Of course, he was living also in the midst of it. But yeah, I've tried to stay true to that tradition. I'm not a purist who thinks I have to emulate every single lick and nuance of a particular fiddler, you know, that we've inherited through this recorded tradition. So, you know, it definitely has evolved over time. And even what's called old-time music has changed over time. Outside of Appalachia, there are now these, I would call them maybe like colonies of old-time music, you know, like in Ithaca, New York, and Portland, Oregon. There are these communities that are playing this music, and I think maybe in Rhode Island they're playing more Kentucky fiddle tunes right now in some parts of Kentucky that they're playing them in, and so those groups, which have, you know, been around and flourishing since the 1960s, they've kind of created their own strands of the music too, you know, around certain sounds and influencing the rhythms in particular ways. It's funny, you get into conversations with people who want to insist on a certain type of old time being old time, and fiddlers in particular, and they'll talk about certain kinds of bowing, and they'll say, well, you don't really shuffle, or, you know, you put the emphasis on the 1 and the 3 beat, or you put it on the 2 and the 4 beat, and, you know, there are all sorts of conversations like that go on. Growing up here in southern Ohio and eastern Kentucky, though, in the 1970s, the fiddlers that I hung out with really didn't have those conversations. They considered what you were doing with your right hand, whether you were playing the banjo or you're bowing, to be kind of an individual statement. So I think a lot of them would be confused by, you know, like in modern clawhammer banjo, they play what's called a bum diddy lick. And if you're not playing that, you're not playing old time. And those guys from back then, I mean, they would have, who had 19th century roots, they would not have recognized that definition of the music. My professional training, I'm a literary historian, so I am interested in geeking out in some of the particular details. But I also am very excited about some of the directions that the music is going. We have a lot of young people who have learned this music through Appalachian study programs all over the country. And, you know, and I love seeing that. I love seeing people from all over the world embracing this music. You know, there are people playing it in Japan and, you know, everywhere. And they bring something new to the table. And I think that that's true to the spirit of what is meant by folk music. And folk music, that's an old Germanic word that it's really music of the folk. It's music of the people. So those who are trying to codify it or to embalm it are really stopping something. It's like trying to stop the wind or damming a river. You know, you just let it go, and you know, it'll seek its own level. And I think it's very exciting to see, with all the disparate cultural influences that are coming on the old time now, some of these sounds that are coming out from the young people who are producing this music. This song is one that was in my grandfather's repertoire that he sang for many, many years, and it's called East Virginia.
My home in East Virginia, North Carolina, I did go. There I met a fair young maiden, and her name her hair was dark and curly, and her lips were rosy red. On her breast she wore white lily, where I long to lay my head. Every moment seems an hour. Every moment seems like death. Many a stroll we made together down beside the deep blue sea. Within your arms you found another. In my grave I'd rather be. I give to you my gold and silver. I give to you my watch and chain. I'll give to you my greenback dollar. If you'll consent to marry me, I don't want your gold and silver. I don't want your watch and chain. All I want is you, my darling. Won't you take me back again?
I have never bought a fiddle based on its physical characteristics. You know, the more battered and scarred it is, I like broken things, I guess, I don't know. But I've always been drawn to that. But more than that, I've always purchased on sound. You know, there's just kind of a certain tone. And I think it may even be something that's subliminal, you know, maybe going back to the fiddlers of my youth, just a kind of sound that just kind of would speak to my heart. Because I've found that with the musicians, often the tone they're looking for is incredibly individual. You know, what sounds good to one person doesn't sound good to another, just like people buy different kinds of cars for various reasons aesthetically. But I've always purchased for that. And so the instruments that I have tend to be pretty old. What I like about an old instrument is you know how it sounds. If you have a new violin that's just been made, it's not been broken in yet, the wood vibrates in a particular kind of way, and fiddlers talk about the tone opening up on an instrument over time. So you can have a brand new instrument that has not opened up. You really don't know how it's going to sound in 10 years. It may sound great the day that you purchased it, but down the road, who knows? So all of the instruments that I have, the newest one I have, I think, was made in 1908. All of the others are, 1870s, 1890s, and I'm also interested in instruments that there's a chain of custody too. Because the label, you don't go on. Everything's made by Stradivarius if you're just looking at the label, But what I tend to see, who owned it, are there documents, maybe letters or family anecdotes that are associated with the instrument that have been recorded, that really allows you to know. But I live in Athens, Ohio now, and we have some tremendous luthiers there who can fix up the instrument and get it into playing shape pretty quick. This tune is called Lost Indian, and there are a number of tunes that had this name played in Appalachia in the 19th century, and this is one of them. 2, 3. I think it's essential to find a mentor, especially I can only speak to the kind of music that I play, so Appalachian music. Just simply listening to recordings, and the recordings that are available are tremendous. In the 1960s, there were a number of folklorists and musicologists who went into southern Ohio and southwestern Virginia and in eastern Kentucky, and they collected these tunes from older folks in the 1960s. My grandfather was recorded by Mark Wilson, but people like Guthrie Meade and Jeannie Ritchie went in and they collected these tunes. And they're available online in archives, so you can listen to the Berea College archives. Moorhead has a collection of these that is tremendous. But listening to the music really doesn't convey the techniques. You have to sit knee to knee with a practitioner of the banjo or the fiddle to learn all the nuances. And sheet music doesn't cut it either. The techniques that are used cannot be recorded on paper. So my advice would be is to seek out mentors, and there are many of them right here in Appalachia. You can find these people. There's a lost generation of musicians. People are, I'm 52, but I have many contemporaries like 50 to 60 years old who learned from these old timers who were connected to the 19th century, and they're not going to be around much longer. So there is an opportunity to study with these folks, to learn from them, and they are excited to pass on the knowledge that they have about this music to the younger generation. And music, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's stitched to the culture. So when you're with a human being, you get a taste and a flavor of that culture, the anecdotes, the stories about the tunes, the soil that they grew in. All of that is essential to really understanding this music. It's not just a series of notes that you string together, because the culture and the music are not so easily pulled apart. They are not disparate. They are together. And so if you find a person then who is from the region, who's connected to the region, they can share all of that with you. And that's happening. That is happening, and I'm really excited about the state of the music moving forward. All right, this tune comes from the St. Louis underworld. A fellow named Lee Shelton in 1895 got into an altercation with a man named Billy Lyons, who was also a member of the St. Louis underworld, and they had a dispute over Lee Shelton's hat, which was a John B. Stetson hat that figures prominently in this particular song. So one Billy Lyons purloined the hat, and then Lee Shelton came looking for his hat, and then the ensuing altercation, Billy Lyons ended up dead. Lee Shelton went by the name Stagger Lee, or Stag Lee, which meant he was a loner. Ended up serving several years in the penitentiary for that, and actually died in prison in 1912. But his story got memorialized in a number of folk songs. There are many different renditions of this that are played throughout Appalachia. This is a version that was played by my grandfather, Hobe Stallard, who was born the same year of that incident, actually, in 1895. He lived to be 101, and so a lot of my tunes came from him, but this is his version of Stagger Lee.
All in the alley, one dark and rainy night. Billy Lyons and Stagger Lee had one terrible fight, all about that John B. Stetson hat. Stagger Lee walked to the ballroom and he called for a glass of beer. Turned around and Billy Lyons said, "What you doing here? Waiting for a train to bring my woman home." Stagger Lee, oh Stagger Lee, please don't take my life. I got 3 little children and a weeping, loving wife. You're bad man, Stagger Lee. God bless your children and I'll take care of your wife. You stole my John B. and I'm bound to take your life. All about that John B. Stetson hat. Stagger Lee turned to Billy Lyons and I shot him right through the head. Only taking one shot to kill Billy Lyons dead. All about that John B. Stetson hat. shoes and a rubber tired hat. Taking Billy down to the cemetery, but they failed to bring him back. All about that John B. Stetson hat. All in the alley, I thought I heard a bulldog bark. It must have been old Stacker Lee stumbling in the dark. He's a bad man, gonna land him right back in jail. High police called on Stacker Lee, he was lying fast asleep. High police called on Stacker Lee, and it jumped up 40 feet. He's a bad man, Stacker Lee. Well, they caught old Stacker Lee, and they threw him right back in jail. Couldn't get a man around to go Stacker Lee's bail. All about that John B. Stetson hat. Stacker Lee called for the jailer, jailer, I can't sleep. All around my bedside, Billy lines begin to creep. All about that John B. Stetson hat.
All right. That's the banjo tunes.